Thanks so much, everyone, for staying with us. This is Channels Television continued coverage of the Osun governorship election 2026. It's a big election night, and this is our special telling you about the trend, the result, the exercise, the patterns of figures in the exercise, and our partnership with YIAGA Africa in ensuring that your vote count, monitoring the exercise, not only what was done, but also the outcome of it. I'm being joined on this side of the set by the Executive Director of YIAGA Africa, an election and democracy expert and advocate, Mr. Samson Itodo, who is equally a lawyer. Thank you so much, Samson.
Thanks for having me. Always a delight.
Thank you, and congratulations once again for ERA 2.0, which we will be unveiling in a moment.
The second iteration.
We are able, and a lot of you will maybe asking, what is ERA? It's a dashboard that helps you to break down the election result. It's an analysis dashboard, and when we do that, it makes sense of the result. We are monitoring and tracking what INEC and the officials are putting into the IREV, which is the viewing portal where results are being dumped. So when that happens, we have a way of verifying the result on the back end. We aggregate those results and we put them into map, into patterns for you to understand basically and have an understanding while waiting for INEC to announce the result officially. We are able to show you what exactly is going on. But beyond all of that, before we get into it, because I'm seeing the color codes of the political parties, who is in the lead, what local government, and it's clearly showing who is winning the local government areas in the yellow, in the red. Red now for APC, which I'm going to be showing you later. Yellow for the Accord Party. So once you see it, you are able to know who is winning what and what local government is in the bag for which of the political parties. But first and foremost, let's give you a sense of what happened today, an appreciation or appraiser of what INEC did and what INEC did not do, what the security operatives also were up to.
You know what, Sean, before we take a deep dive into this data set, perhaps when we go to the ERAD portal, it's important for those at home to know that everything we do is based on INEC's data. So it's based on the official data that's already on the IREV, and we don't declare results because INEC is the institution that is responsible for declaring results. All we are simply doing with the ERAD is taking the results from the IREV and bringing them to your screens so you can follow the results through. It's our own accountability mechanism, and as you will see from the dashboard, we already spotted, some issues with some of the results uploaded on the portal, and we hope that INEC will ensure that it corrects whatever anomalies exist within the entire results management process. But as you know, the results move from the polling unit to the ward, from the ward to the local government, and the local governments to the state. There are two conditions that must be met before a winner emerges. First, you need majority of the votes, and second, you need 25% of votes in 20 of the 30 local governments. It's important to emphasize this before we take a deep dive into the data set.
So legally speaking,
yes,
if you have the highest number of votes, but you do not make the 2/3,
yes, 25% in 20 local governments.
That 2/3 is 20 local government. What happens?
Then a winner will not emerge.
So what happens if INEC is not able to declare a winner?
Then INEC will have to conduct a runoff.
A second ballot.
And there's also a condition that the criteria for determining who makes it to a runoff, because it's not all the candidates. First is the candidate with the highest number of votes, but then is the second candidate with the highest number of votes in the highest number of local governments. Yeah. So it's not really cast in stone who will be on the ballot when it comes to a runoff. But you know what? We are not there yet. We have to wait.
And that scenario may not happen.
And that scenario
may not happen. It may not happen.
But it's our.
But what I can tell you, the secret I can tell you, all this, believe me when I tell you some of these things, is that it is a keenly contested race.
It is.
Remember what happened in a year where 482 votes determined the winner of this election.
That's right.
Are we going to see that kind of scenario? I'm not going to give you the details. Just hold your breath, right? And you will be able to uncover. But something, let's get into what really happened today from YIAGA Africa's PRVT process. You are able to detect how early, how sluggish, how fast INEC is able to deploy, and the presence of security. But this is the timing and the presence of polling unit agents and the activation of the polling unit. What did you discover?
I think first, in Ekiti, we did a thumbs up for INEC. I think that they also deserve some commendation, because when you look at the arrival of materials and personnel at the polling units, by 8:30 a.m., in 78% of polling units, accreditation had commenced. What that tells you is that despite the challenge with the delay of the reprinted ballot papers, INEC was still able to open most of the polling units early. And by 9:30 a.m., in 97% of polling units, accreditation and voting had commenced. So when you think about the opening, it was quite a commendable exercise.
All right. The message is, Professor Amupito, if you are watching right now, and you and your colleagues, what this signal is that this is a test case for the 2027 election. And if there is anything one can take away from here, is that INEC has incredibly improved on
when it comes to logistics.
Don't forget, 2011, 2015, 2023, logistics has always been INEC's problem. We've cancelled the general elections on the election day.
We can actually compare. Let's compare 2026 and 2022 based on the sampled polling units where YIAGA Africa deployed. In Osun, that's 2026, you can see by 8:30 a.m. accreditation had commenced, and then by 10:30 a.m. it moved to 99%. But in 2022, it was 41%, and then 96% by 10:30 a.m. So when you look at this data, compare 2022 and 2026, with respect to commencement, this was a marked improvement.
Absolutely, which is a good sign.
Yes.
Because if you've got a problem, which INEC has always, and I keep saying it, INEC's major problem is logistics.
Yes.
And on election day, we've seen it happen. INEC had to say elections has been postponed because they could not get the ballot in. But now we get to print ballot papers right here in Nigeria, which lessen
this local production of ballot papers and result sheet is a welcome development. Nigeria has everything it takes, to produce its own materials, and we're glad to see that this is really happening. So when you look at, in terms of presence of security agencies, they were in 98% of the polling
deployment.
In one of the polling units I visited today, there were only 3 officials, and guess the number of police officers that were there? 14. 14 police officers were deployed to one particular polling unit.
And this can only
had only 3 officials.
Election.
Exactly, and there were only 265 registered voters. So there's this massive sort of deployment of security agents. But there are some issues, and I'm sure when we go into the data, we clearly see how some of them perform.
There may be a sense of over-militarization of our electoral process. But I do say that if you are taught in secondary school or in university, and your student are notorious for cheating in class, you will deploy invigilators to put a microscope when you know that this guy. So when we do not have a process that in itself is full proof of this kind of discrepancy that we see, and we've had a history of violence in the last weeks leading to this election that is concerning. One cannot take away the fact that you cannot say the authorities should open their eyes or leave all of these things and allow people being killed on election day or the process being disrupted. They will be heavily criticized. What I'm concerned with was the process free of violence to a large extent. With the deployment, I think if they are able to achieve that goal, the security agencies should give themselves kudos.
Yeah, when you look at the presence of party agents, there were 3 dominant parties in this race, and they deployed in this manner. In 99% of the sampled polling units where we deployed, Accord Party had party agents. Same with the APC. So you see that these are the 2 contending forces in this particular race, and this may not necessarily be a third force, but at least we'd never know what the results would say. But they deployed to 67% of polling units. Now, Sharon, let's look at the BVAS. This was a topical issue in this election. From over 726 polling units, where the Election Observation Hub deployed observers, there were 58 incidents where BVAS malfunctioned. And of this, 41 cases were resolved and polling continued. I think one thing that this really says, there are several issues that this has thrown up. First, we need to resolve this challenge with respect to validation of voters, especially facial recognition. I felt so bad for several elderly people who couldn't pass through this validation process. And you could see the joy on the faces of those who were accredited. It tells you that level of political engagement and interest. And for them, it was like, oh, this was really a eureka moment that they celebrate. But this, we need to resolve this issue. And this is the point about auditing the BVAS and the IRF. And the call again is made to INEC that we've got to audit the technologies if we really care about inspiring public trust in the technologies that we deploy. Because when these technologies that are meant to enhance the credibility of the process make it difficult for voters to get accredited, it constitutes a huge problem, and it could blight, the trust that is being built with successive elections.
And you know what, just like your WhatsApp that has a two-way authentication, and that is what, just remember before you take it away, that is what the BVAS has always done, because there's the biometrics and the fingerprint, which says before you get through the accreditation, your card, your PVC must match and be able to go through the verification with the BVAS. The details on your card must match the details has been imputed on the BVAS. So the sensitivity, because in Ekiti, the same thing happened where we saw the elderly are not being accredited. And sometimes when your thumb is going to be used for verification, they ask you to go wash it off. So, a lot of things happen. And the sensitivity of the device needs to be looked into.
I think
maybe an update on the software.
And I think Nigerians need to know why the revalidation process of our voter register was very important. Yes, it was a good choice not to continue with the revalidation because we're close to an election. You don't do a revalidation exercise close to election. You wait after the general election. But INEC needs to prioritize the revalidation exercise immediately after the 2027 elections as we build towards 2031. And some of these issues are largely attributed to the fact that the revalidation was not conducted, coupled with the fact that there are some, technological updates that need to be made to the systems that we use for voter accreditation. Now, let's go to the dark side of today's elections. We've talked about the good side and where INEC got it right. These are some of the issues. Now, if you look at the Kuka Center's Election Security Information Hub, which is part of the Election Observation Hub, there were 323, electoral offenses and irregularities as of 12 p.m. this afternoon. And this was contained in the statement that was released. But shall we just look at the screen? Which of these has the highest number of offenses? Vote trading. Over 103 cases of buying and selling of votes really happened in today's elections. And it's really unfortunate that you are recording that. You look at multiple voting, there were 12 cases. There were inducement of polling and security officials. This was allegedly reported. There were 38 incidents of campaigns at polling units, voter impersonation, 14 incidents, misconduct by election officials, 7, obstruction of voters. Now, this was very troubling because there were reports where, whether they were thugs that were intimidating voters who were standing on the queue. And this happened even though isolatedly, but the fact that you have 31 cases of obstruction really could lead to voter suppression. And then 85 cases of exposure of ballot paper. Some of the polling units I went to today, it was just disappointing to see voters expose how they actually cast their ballots. And there is a connection between, this act and that. And
I said it earlier. the right word to use is vote trading.
Yes.
Which has a legal implication, inducement. So, of course, it can induce the voters or the security operatives. But I mean, most largely, the offense is inducement. Vote trading is a generic term to be used for either the buyer or the seller. Everyone is a sinner in that sense, and is a criminal.
And a lawbreaker, by the way, because it's against the law to do that. So far so good. This is just a snapshot, you know, of what has really transpired. As at noon.
The full day report hasn't come in.
And that's why it's really there, that as at noon, reports from 726 polling units.
Guess what? If you asked me last night to predict what could be infractions that would come out of this election, I would say maybe triple this figure because of what the incident
the build up to the elections. That's right.
I thought that the presence of security that we saw, and you cannot take it away from the people of Osun State, they are resilient. They are politically sound.
No, can we commend the people of Osun?
They stood their ground in their own turf.
And they protected their vote.
Yes.
And that's really interesting.
And it happened in any of the strongholds.
Yes.
So if you were strong here, they stood their ground. All the other political parties, you will see them standing their grounds. And in fact, I see multiplicity of, and perhaps the result will give us an understanding of how widespread the results are looking. But generally, something, if you look at the IREV to the ERAD, what we have, the total number of polling unit results we are expecting is 3,763, and so far, what has come into the ERAD is 1,325.
But
the results that are pending is 2,438. We still have a long way.
We still have a long way.
On the IREF, that's what we're monitoring. We're looking at how these results are coming in. Well, take a look at this, for example.
I think just to mention that, yes, when you look at the IREF, you have over 2,900. I'm sure it probably gets up to 3,000 now. But the ERAD business process, it's not just taken directly from the IREF. There has to be some verification. So I guess within the next hour, this might change. And it's important to say that this is an ongoing process. But people can also visit the portal, erad.ng, erad.ng, to follow the live updates on this. But when you look at this, Sharon, and you were going to say something, we're clearly, based on the results that are already on IREF, there are some issues regarding whether it's overvoting or reconciliation errors or mismatch and incomplete sheets. And you can see that there are some gaps because those results are currently on the portal. And from the result, there are about some cases where you have reconciliation errors. And this is the beauty of the ERAD.
Absolutely.
Because it's able to detect some anomalies on the result sheets by just, this
analyzing
it.
And during the business process of cleaning it up and finding out.
And what that tells you is that these errors would need to be rectified during collation. And so whatever you're seeing on the IREF, please note that at collation, the collation officers are required, to look at these errors and try to resolve them.
So if you look at it, what excites me again in the process is that there were times that the quality of what you see on the IREF is horrible.
Yes.
Some people just snap things and just dump it on the IREF. But we
there were days when there were plates of rice and
slippers, shoes,
but we don't see that
now,
these days.
Legible result sheet rate is 99.6%. It gives us an idea of how much we are able to process faster and, when we are able to clean up the result. But take a look at it. I know a lot of people are willing to find out. So based on the local government areas, this is what we know now. The number of results per local government that has come, and you will soon see what this means. If East seems to have the most at the moment, followed by Electoral, if enough, you can see more of the result coming in that order. So so far, about 1,325 results have come into the ERAD platform, and we're processing it for you, and you will be able to make sense of the entire process and its outcome. But Samson, give us an idea of the PRVT and ERAD and the IREV. What is the correlation?
So there are several correlations. So first, the IREV is based on the results declared at the polling unit, the EC8As. The ERAD takes those EC8As, analyzes them, and visualizes them. What the PRVT does, which is a process result for verification and transparency, we deploy observers to a random sample of polling units. So we use statistical principles. And because we do that and we deploy to those polling units, we collect information on the process and the results. And because of the methodology, we are able to do three things. The first one is we can attest to the accuracy of the results, announced by INEC, and we can show if there has been any manipulation across different levels. And the third one is that the PRVT serves as a check on the ERAD and the IREV, because the results from the PRVT are based on the results declared at the polling unit before they were transmitted online on the IREV.
So if there's a major problem, if there's a discrepancy, there will be...
I can tell you in the next 3 to 4 hours, when the data from PRVT has been cleaned and our confidence level are high, you would see them on the ERAD platform, and you see the triangulation. We look at INEC's results, you look at the ERAD, and then you look at PRVT, and it can show you the margins of error. If you go to Ekiti on the portal, you clearly see an illustration of this.
Well, maybe I should go to the election result, but not just yet.
Not just yet.
But thank you so much, Samson, for speaking with us on these.